Zoom. We want to thank you for joining us today to talk about dementia and whole family. And so today, here with me is my mother, Priscilla John Louis. She is the founder of K&D Creative Designs and Marketing Solutions. She also is a primary caregiver to my grandmother who has Alzheimer's and my late great grandmother who had Alzheimer's dementia as well. She is truly what I like to say, my momager, my mom of the year, because she helps me with all my endeavors and truly is just a selfless person. So that is my mom.
All right. And this is my daughter, Kaylin. Kaylin is a 16-year-old rising senior dual enroll honor student. She's a motivational speaker, philanthropist, youth caregiver advocate, an all-around power teen. And she is also the secondary youth caregiver to my mother, which is her grandmother, and a full-time advocate for youth caregivers. She's a podcaster as well as a radio host, and she uses her voice to inspire other youth to care, to be kind, to love, to have compassion, to dream, and just to be the best version of themselves. And that is who Kaylin is. And we're so happy to join you all today.
Yes, we are so glad to be here. So let's jump right into this ALZ talk. So Mom, why don't you share with the audience how our caregiving journey began?
Absolutely. So our journey began several years ago with my mother. She began to show early signs of dementia. And there was one day in particular, where she picked up my older daughter, Destiny. She would pick her up from school. And when I went to pick up Destiny from school that day, she shared with me that she was afraid to ride with Granny. And so when I inquired as to why, she said that Granny would be sitting at the red light and she wouldn't go when it was her turn to go. And then when the light turned red, she would then pull out in front of the other cars. And so at that point, that's when I started paying attention to just things that were going on with her. And sure enough, there would be times when she would lose her keys, she would misplace her purse. And so as that continued to progress, of course, we took her to the doctor and there was a diagnosis of dementia. And so we had to eventually stop her from driving. And just a tip for those who may be wondering, well, how do I do that? Because that happens with a lot of people with dementia where they just want to drive. Well, what ended up happening with my mom, we actually went out to a family gathering and my brother ended up taking the battery cable loose. And so when he took the battery cable loose and she went out to get in the car, it would not crank. And so that was the way that we were able to get her to stop driving. Now, fortunately and unfortunately, she never inquired about it. But from that point, from that day, that's when the journey began, because then I became the one that had to transport her everywhere she needed to go, as well as just take her here and there. So that went from taking the car, then having to be there to make sure she got where she wanted, to then actually taking her to our home every day. And so it became a cycle where I would pick her up from her house, go pick up Kaylin from after school, go home the next morning, get her up, drop Kaylin off to school, drop her off at her house, go to work, go back to her house for lunch to make sure she had lunch, then go back to her house, pick her up. And we did that for an entire year. And so it started with that. And then we ended up moving into her home with her because after a while, she didn't want to get up anymore. I would go to get her up and she did not want to get up. And so it became more difficult to do that. And so we ended up moving in with her. And then we became full-time in the home caregivers. And Kaylin, because she's in the home, she became caregiver as well. And so, that's how our journey started. And that was in May. And then the following April, we ended up bringing my grandmother in to live with us. And so then it went from caring from one to full-time caring for two. And so that's where we started.
And from that point on, as my mom shared, she was the one who saw the big stuff, the diagnosis with the doctor and everything like that. But I decided right when my mom sat down with me and my sister and basically told us, this is, Granny has dementia, this is what she has going on. And so from that moment, I just had to take that inner decision to say whether or not I was going to actually step up or if I was going to see how it would go on. But I mean, she's family, she's my grandmother. So I wanted to make sure she was good, make sure she was okay. So I stepped into the caring journey with my mom as well. And so with doing that, I was also able to coin myself as the secondary youth caregiver, because my mom, while she does all the financials and make sure she takes care of the heavy important stuff, I like to be there to say that I am helping with dishes, or I'm helping sweep the floor, or if she's in a time where she needs help getting her medicine, then I'm there as well to make sure she is doing okay. And so that's why I'm secondary, because I do the things that are the little things, the things that help, the thing that means the most. And so with that, with us just being caregivers, I would say that some of our day-to-day routines, even with myself, is, like I said, making sure she's good. We have people who are here to watch her, but when they leave, I'm here. Whether my mom's working and needs a moment of rest, I'm there to help her out. Or if there's a time where my mom has something going on where she just needs a moment of respite, I'm there to say, I got you. I'll step in and I'll make sure she's okay. She gets her food and everything like that.
Yep, and it's definitely very much appreciated by me, because you don't see that. You don't have many 16. Actually, Kaylin started well before 16. She was around 12, 10, 12 when we started. And even as she's grown, growing up with it, she hasn't been selfish about it at all. And so that makes life for me so much easier, especially when, as a single parent, as, just the two of us, it makes a world of difference in my life. And so one of the things that I've always tried to make sure of, even in Kaylin's caregiving journey, is to make sure that Kaylin has never felt like this was something that she was made to be doing. I have done my best to not make it appear to be a burden for her. So we always make sure that Kaylin's able to do exactly what it is she does. She, at one point, she was involved in color guard. She's always been busy, involved in a lot of things. And so in the beginning of us moving in with my mom, she was involved with the color guard at a school. Matter of fact, she was a color guard captain. So she had color guard. And then when color guard was over, she went into winter guard. Winter guard involved traveling. And so one of the things that I did during that particular time is made sure that even though I was caring for my mom, and at that point as well, my grandmother, I made sure that I still showed up for Kaylin, because it's important to me that she never feels like, this is just something I have to do, or start to feel bitter about it. Because in caring, you can care and then get lost in it, and then the rest of the family is lost as well. And so that was big for me to make sure that that didn't happen with her. So what I would do is, even on Friday evenings when the game started, I would always make sure that I had somebody at our house, whether I had to pay them or whether or not it was volunteering. I made sure somebody was there, and I would always get to the games right before halftime so that I could go out there, show my face. And then I was always down on the field with my camera recording. That's what I do, because I love the memories. And so I would go out there, I would record, I would be there cheering her on. And then as soon as they got done on the field, I would give her a kiss, tell her great job, and then I would get back in my car and go home. And I had to pay to get in the game, but it was important for me to show up, because I want her to know and to realize that, hey, this is my responsibility. I'm appreciative for the fact that she shows up and she does what she does, but as the adult, as the daughter, I want to make sure that she understands, and at that point understood. Now I think she has a full understanding of, all of it, but that has always been something that has been very important to me. And so everything that she's involved in, I try to be front and center to make sure that she understands that this is a balance. Sometimes you can get unbalanced with it, but we bring it back in. I think we actually make a pretty great team caring. And so that's what life is like for us, and like Kaylin said, on the average day, we bounce, we kind of know what each other's doing anyway, most of the time. And so if I have something going on, she's there, vice versa, and we make it work. We make it work.
Yes, we are a pretty great team. And even with being a team, of course, when it first started, we had to get in the swing of things. But I've always been right up under my mom. So anytime that I knew she needed something, I wanted to step in and be that help for her. And so even with our caring journey, I mean, we have a lot that we endure, whether it's making sure she's okay. And we have our fun moments where even though my grandmother may have moments of confusion or she may not understand certain things, we're able to have our funny moments and make her laugh or share a few jokes. But we also have those moments where it's not so fun and they're challenging moments. And so, Mom, would you like to share just how that goes for the both of us? And I'll go.
Yeah, there could be a lot, a lot of challenging moments. And I can pick a few, but just this past week, and I had an incident to happen. And that's always, it actually brought me into thinking like, oh my gosh, Caitlin's about to graduate, but she's going to go on to what she does, and God will put somebody else there. But I had an incident. Caitlin wasn't home this weekend, and my mom, she had a moment, had a little accident. And so I had to get her together, get her cleaned up and scramble. And I'm trying to figure out, how do I do this and keep her, in the shower. So, I mean, those moments, but one thing that always brings me back is really, for real, perspective. There have been moments where I'm always real about the journey that I'm on. I don't try to sugarcoat it. I started this, even with my platform that I have, it started out because in the beginning, God told me to make ministry out of the moments. And so I took that and I started a social media platform. And when I first started, I started sharing what I coined to be my mama moments. And those were moments that were really funny, just things she would say and things that she would do. And but then when those challenging moments did come, I started to share those. Now, I never share anything that goes against her dignity, but I don't want people to think either that it's all fun and games. And so I would share those moments as well. And so, your challenging moments are what they are. But one of the things that I love, even in the challenges, is the fact that my mom always, no matter where it is, now I can be the worst person in this moment, and then 5 minutes later, I love you so much. And that's the one thing that she does all the time is she will say, I love you. Thank you so much for taking care of me. And that I love you really does take away, no matter what the challenges have been, it takes them away because you realize that, it's not them. It is really the dementia. And, we'll get into it. I'll give Kaylin the opportunity, but for me, and Kaylin is pointing out her shirt, what has become important to me is that love. And so I have a caregivers t-shirt line, and my most recent shirt is love is greater than dementia. We actually have these shirts on now. Kaylin has hers where you can see it, but that is the thing. Love is greater than dementia. So no matter what comes, as long as that love there, whether they give it to you or not, whether your loved one ever says, I love you, or they don't, you know what love is all about. And so you understand that love is greater than dementia. And so love kind of erases those challenges. Go ahead, Kaylin. What about you? What is your greatest challenge?
I mean, like my mom said, there are a lot of days where some days is a challenge. I mean, everybody knows with your caregiving journey, it can be a roller coaster of emotions where you go from happy to sad. But I think one of the greatest challenges, and it's not anything that ever goes away, is as my mom shared, when my grandmother was diagnosed, my older sister was with her when those things were happening. And so my older sister and my grandmother were able to form that granny connection before Alzheimer's and being able to have those memories. But because I'm younger, I saw a little bit of it as I was young, but I really am now seeing more of how Alzheimer's has affected her. And so the greatest challenge would probably be knowing that she doesn't recognize me individually all the time. I mean, she always knows that I'm family. She shares those I love yous. She shares those every once in a while of just that pure love and that raw, unconditional love. But knowing that I can see her and she may not say my name. She may say she knows my mom's name faithfully,
All
but
day long.
she may say my name every once in a while, catch it every blue moon. And so those moments are extremely special to me. But knowing that I can't get those memories back or certain things, that can be challenging. But like my mom says, it is about perspective. I mean, I personally believe that you can choose to look at a situation from a good perspective or a negative one. And I try to focus on the things, I mean, I'm learning that even more, that it's better to focus on things that you can fix versus things that you can't change. And so since they're still working on a cure and knowing that I just have to go into her world and know what's going on, I take dementia with how it comes. I mean, it is what it is. And I just still have to show that love and show that grace to her because I'd want somebody to do the same for me. But even with this, I mean, we have had so many things to happen, even whether it was challenges, whether it was joy, whether it was just those moments of pure love. And with that, we've learned a lot of tips on the way because as for our family, we've learned that it appears to be generational. This disease does. And so Mom, I would like you to share with them just what are some tips you've learned, even with that, just to navigate this entire thing with dementia in our family.
And it is, I'm going to go back and address this one thing you said really quick, and then I'll go there. But as Kaylin said, and I mentioned before, perspective is everything. And I tell people all the time, even on your dementia journey, how you choose to look at it is how you choose to see it, right? And so if you look for the good in it, it may take you a little while to find it, but I guarantee you that if you look for it, there's some good that you can find in it. And so that is my number one. What has become the greatest factor in my caregiving journey is my faith. Okay, that is number one for me, my faith, my relationship with God. That is what helps me through. And people ask all the time, me and Caitlin, how do you do it? Especially when I had my grandmother and there were two. And the only answer I have is grace, because I've come to understand that there's a level of grace that God gives us for every situation that he allows us to be in. And so because of that, I've learned that it's the grace of God that helps us to do it. For me, it becomes journey. I do a lot of journaling. I don't keep it bottled up on the inside. I will journal. I even journal my prayers. And so how I'm feeling, I write it out. That's how I talk to God. I write it out and I get it out. You know, it's hard sometimes. I will say that even in the midst of caring for your loved one, I call it serving, right? Because I look at caregiving as serving. I look at it as being able to serve, to give back to my mom. And at the time, my grandmother, what they gave to me, it's sacrifice. And so with that, I journal, I read when a moment does come and I don't understand what's going on, I research. I go online, I look and I'm finding, okay, what's needed? What is this all about? It's been difficult to watch my mom lately. You know, she has progressed even more over the last month or so. It's difficult to watch when I'm giving her a bath and I'm asking her to at the time, giving her a bath, maybe about a month or so ago, it really got bad where I would go to get her out the tub and ask her to stand up, and she has no clue. And she's looking at me and even saying at some point, I don't know what you're talking about. That's hard. That is extremely hard to watch. But at the same time, I'm like, you have to find that outlet. And so I advise anybody, journal. And one of the greatest things you can do as well is share your story. It's okay. You don't have to share every single detail, but share your story. Tell other people. Village is extremely important. It is extremely important to make sure that you have a strong village, and you have a village of people who understand, who really can and really don't mind getting into the thick of it with you. I remember one incident that really, it touched my heart beyond anything, because we recently moved, but at our prior place, we had carpet. And so there would be times when my mom would get up confused in the middle of the night, and she would get up and use the restroom right on the floor, right? And so I was talking with a good friend of mine who, know how I am as far as cleanliness. And I was telling her that I was going to go and rent a carpet cleaner. And so she said, well, no, wait, we'll come do it. She was telling me about some things that she and her husband were looking to do. And so a few weeks later, I spoke with her again and said, hey, did you all ever do that? Because I just want to get a carpet cleaner done. So she said, just wait. Well, like a day or two later, I'm in my office working, doorbell rings, and she shows up at my house with a carpet cleaner that she went and purchased. Did not tell me, and I'm thinking she came with one that she rented for me, right? She actually paid out of pocket. It's moments like that you really don't really know what to do with, because somebody cares enough. And those are the caliber of people that I have in my life that I've been blessed with. I have friends who, are there that they can call, and I can call. I have one, at the drop of a hat, would put down whatever she's doing to come and be there. And so that's important. Village, very important. So those are the things that have worked for me. What about you, Kaylin?
There's been a lot of tips, but just one to share. I would say I have a support group of friends that I like to say they may not know the situation that I'm going through because they are not caregivers, but they are still there to listen to me in those moments of confusion or those moments of frustration. They're there to hear me out, hear what I have to tell them, and they're just there as a support for me. So if you are a youth caregiver, it's good to have people around you that help you and that are there to listen to your stories. But even as we do that, we know that there's so many things that we can share and so many different tips. Even as my mom said, there's a lot of tips as it appears that Alzheimer's has affected many of members in our family. We are just trying to learn the facts, get educated, and make sure that we stop this generational disease, because we want to make sure that it doesn't affect us anymore, and that we just continue to help the Alzheimer's Association learn more so that they can get that research, that care, and support out to everyone, so that one day there is a cure to end Alzheimer's.
And we do believe that that day is coming. We believe that. I mean, right now in our family, as she stated, it does appear to be genetic. My mom has it right now. She has a sister who has it. And then I have two uncles, her two brothers. Then I had an aunt who passed away. So, we are working extremely hard with bringing about awareness, helping other people to understand what this looks like, what it's like, so that we can educate others, and then make sure that we ourselves are educated so that we know and doing what we can do to try and make sure that, it stops, right? And so those are things that are very, very important to me and to us.
Right. And I mean, this has been great. I have enjoyed everything that we have been able to talk about, but I guess to make it full circle, I want to just share with you one thing that brought me joy. I don't know if my mom wants to share, but one thing that is caused me to continue to look at Alzheimer's and dementia is not making sure that I always see my grandma as my grandma. And she's not her disease. She's not what she was diagnosed as. And so today, I mean, even just this week, she had her moments of rowdiness where she was everywhere, but I had the chance to just sit next to her on the couch as I normally do. And even though she may be having conversations and I may not understand anything that she's talking about, but here and there, like my mom says, she always tells me, I love you. Thank you for what you're doing. That's what consistently brings me joy and allows me to continue to push forward and go through in this caregiving journey.
And that's exactly what you have to do. You have to go into their world. We have no idea a lot of times what my mom is saying, but one thing we do know, she loves love. She loves to talk. And if you sit next to her, she's going to talk about this, that, the other. And most of the time I have not a clue what she's saying, but I sit there and I say, what? Yeah, girl. And we go on. And sometimes it's, for a long time that we're talking, but I've learned one last thing. I don't know how this is for other people, but bath time was horrible. Bath time was awful. But what I learned is that you have to find a way to make it work. And so for her, that is buttering her up. That is sitting there talking to her. I get her to going and talking. And then after getting into conversation, I'm like, come on, girl, let's go ahead and take a bath. And I have no problem. And it's been a little over a year. I've not had that problem, not majorly. Now, there are moments, but it's not majorly. So you just have to go exactly where they are. And just remember, it is the disease and it's not them. They are a person. They love love. And so they may not remember you, but you remember who they are and make sure that you give them who they deserve to be, whether or not, because their behaviors, they have no idea what they're doing, no idea what they're doing, but they're human. And so that's my tidbit.
Yes. Well, we know we just scratched the surface on some family caregiving topics, and everyone's situation is different. But the Alzheimer's Association is here for you. So to learn more about Alzheimer's and caring, we ask that you find your local chapter, support groups, and education programs so that you can connect with the Alzheimer's Association at 1-800-272-3900. The Alzheimer's Association Helpline is a free service available 24/7 and can offer confidential support and information for anyone with questions about dementia or Alzheimer's. You can also visit the caregiving section of their website at alz.org/care and access on-demand education programs at alz.org/education. We thank you for being here with us today. That is all the time we have. So we thank you for joining us. And remember, love is greater than dementia.
Thank you so much.